So on Easter weekend, I took the family out to Boston, and the first place we went to was the New England Aquarium. And there, we saw penguins. We then met Nemo and some other interesting fish.
Take a video. Where is the movie?
Yeah, you would never think, right? Just saw the little eyes.
Some of the fish were very colorful and looked amazing.
Their same energy. You have to know that you're not cool. It's really this. That's really.
And then we went back to see the penguins again. Not too bad, but it's time for a new one.
Fine, those guys up there, the stairs in the center. They're smart.
Listen, we're going to see everything, okay? Slow down.
I saw an elephant nose fish. I've never seen anything like it before.
No, Nick, that's a.
That's just details.
There might not be. He's getting nervous. Yeah, I thought so. We're just having fun.
And then we saw the seahorses. Those were amazing too. Beautiful creatures. Yeah.
They're doing stretching. Come on, they're working out.
I think they're eating. Seahorses. Oh, okay, no es tan popular como esos, los rubios. No, porque esa misma debe decir.
The aquarium also had giant sea turtles.
Gotcha. Well, you can always start we have a volunteer and internship program, so that's always a good way to get your foot in the door. You can ask to work specifically with them.
And they also had some sea plants, and I was at all with all those beautiful colors. And finally, in the middle of the aquarium, they have this huge tank from the first floor up to the third or fourth floor filled with beautiful fish.
Did you actually?
And then after the aquarium, we went outside and we strolled a little bit around the area to see some sights. And by the way, we were close to the Freedom Trail.
Just say shit. No, you go that way. You would have gave 100, you would have got off the line. I'm trying to tell you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, the 4 amigos. Okay, gentlemen, music.
And then we stopped at the Quincy Market for a bite to eat. Now the place was packed. They do have good food, but the only problem there was that there's really no place to sit down. With the amount of people that they had, yes, in the middle section of the Quincy Market, they had some tables on the first and second floor, but unfortunately, there was just so many people that if you're not ready to eat standing up or eat as you're walking, then obviously you're not going to have such a good time. But if you go on a weekday when there's not that many people, you may have a chance to sit at one of the tables. Unfortunately, we had to eat standing up. So about an hour ago, I went to get eggs, and this is the size of a normal egg. Now, one of my chickens laid a very, very tiny egg. Look at this. This one, the big one's from an Isa Brown, and this one's from an Australorp. You can tell because of the color. I've never had a chicken or a hen lay such a small egg before. This is kind of like the size of a pigeon. You see that, guys? It is funny though. So this is a first. I don't know, there may be more in the future, but see how tiny it is? Wow. Okay, I take that back. Maybe a pigeon got into my coop. What do you think? By the way, it's a 2017 Honda CR-V. And that night, we stayed at a hotel in Cambridge, right across the river. Oh yeah, the family loved that hotel. It's very nice. Now on the next day, we visited the Museum of Science, which was very close to the hotel, by the way. All right, here it comes. I didn't record a whole lot at the museum. However, we did visit this giant movie theater that they had. I forget the name of it, but there's only one. Then we visited inside the museum, and later we saw this electric show. It was an electric sound show. That was amazing though, by the way. If you are ever at the Museum of Science, I recommend them all. There's a lot of shows throughout the day, so plan it out. You can buy tickets online, by the way, for both the aquarium and the museum. And that's probably the best route to take. Now these oil filters, I never use a wrench to tighten them. I just use my hands. However, to loosen them up sometimes, I do need the assistance of a small belt wrench. What do I mean by that? This kind of wrench. Only to loosen them up. But to tighten them up, never use a wrench. Do it by hand. 3/4 turns, by the way. Nah, it's always a mess. And it always helps to have some rags around. Clean a little bit around the engine before putting the new one in. And obviously you should have some gloves just in case. You don't want to get too dirty. I mean, most of the time I do it without gloves, but today I want to stay a little bit clean. Yeah, they work well. To install the new filter, I always take my gloves off. 3/4 turns, guys. Three-quarter turns once the gasket on the filter touches the engine. And if you use a wrench, it'll damage it. Okay, so the nut's back in place, torqued to about 30 foot-pounds. Filters in, no leaks. Yep, ready to fill it up again. Yeah, but first I have to put this panel back on. After the museum, we walked a little bit around the Freedom Trail and ended up on the north end of the city. That's where most of the Italian restaurants are, and that's where most of you are gonna eat if you do visit. They do have great Italian food, and we ended up in Lucia, which had great food, as many others do as well. And that was lunch, and after we ate lunch, we went to Mike's Pastry. We seen a lot of people walk around with white boxes, and most of them were labeled Mike's Pastry, and they sell cannolis. Those cannolis are excellent. Look at all the cannoli flavors. I believe I had a hazelnut cannoli. So guys, if you're looking for something to do with the family this summer, I highly recommend Boston. It's a beautiful city, it's clean, it's safe, and I will definitely go back again in a heartbeat. There are hundreds and hundreds of things to do there. But I do have to mention that parking can be a little expensive. The first day when we got there, we spent $42 in parking at the aquarium. The next day, we spent, I believe it was, $48 at the hotel, because the hotel doesn't have its own parking. We have to use a private parking behind it. So that's $48. At the museum, we spent $16 in parking. Why 16? Because we became members. And also later during the day, when we went to the north end, we had to park at a different location, and that part at another private parking, and that was $42. So we spent more than $150 in parking in 2 days. So that is quite excessive. But yes, Boston is a place that we want to go back to. We just had to find cheaper parking somewhere. Now what you can do is you can take the subway from one place to another. Yeah, they do have supposedly a great subway, but we didn't use it. That's one way to save a few bucks. We are almost done, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna turn it on, lower the car, check for oil leaks, and normally there are none, and then check the level, oil level one more time and call it a day. It looks like we need just a few drops more. Ooh, perfecto. That's it. I'm calling it a day. Okay, about my car. Remember that starting issue I had? Well, when I posted that video within maybe 30 minutes, let me see, PRN5 was the first one to answer, and he told me to go ahead and disconnect the Bluetooth module, because that particular model that I have, a lot of Acuras in the mid 2000s, they have been having issues with the Bluetooth module. They go bad and they start draining the battery overnight. But that was not my problem. I mean, he was correct. Definitely had me looking in the right direction. I had a different issue. Now, you guys know I tested the alternator, the battery, everything was fine. Now, that battery could hold the charge. It did go as low as 9 volts overnight, but when I charged it, it did hold the charge. And that told me that because the battery is 6 months old and it was holding the charge, it wasn't a bad battery. Now, to me, a dead battery will be a battery that drains down to 3 or 4 volts, something that is not serviceable, something that cannot hold the charge. And I knew all along that my battery could, so that was not my issue. I always suspected a parasitic voltage draw. And there's a few of you out there that also had Acuras, like MDXs and RDXs and TLs, that have had the same issue with the Bluetooth. I disconnected my Bluetooth, and the very next day, yeah, the battery was drained again. So I went to a site that I visit quite often for Acuras. It's called AcuraZine. And I did a search for my issue, parasitic draws on 2006 Acura RLs, and it turns out that a few people have had issues just like I do and like some of you did. And it could be one of 3 things. Well, mainly one of 3 things. It could be the Bluetooth, it could also be the air conditioning relay, or their radio. So I suspected my radio, and let me tell you why. About a year ago, when I was driving to work from here to Philadelphia to the Navy Yard, my CD player stopped working and I could not get it to work. You insert the CD and it just flashed the number, and I could not get it to play. So I suspected the radio. So guess what? I took the radio fuse out, took the car out for a drive. I fully charged the battery by driving it for 20-30 minutes. And guess what? The very next day, everything was fine. So yes, it was a parasitic draw all along. And in my case, it was the radio. I should have taken that fuse out first, right? But anyway, had I replaced the battery or the alternator, I would have been back to square one within a few days. So that was not my issue. So the parasitic draw was it, and it is solved. However, let's say if I take a long drive somewhere, all I had to do, if I wanted to listen to the radio, put the fuse back in. Now, when I took the fuse out for my radio, it also disconnected the clock, it disconnected the GPS. And yeah, so if I'm gonna take a long drive, I will connect it again. And obviously, as you're driving, the battery's constantly charging that battery. But if I park the car overnight, I have to make sure to take the fuse out again. But the car's working fine right now. And the chickens are calling, and they're all doing good, by the way. And Mike too. Mike from Machete Adventures, he thought it was a parasitic draw as well. Now, did you know that in Las Marias, Puerto Rico, there is a YouTube channel called Machete Adventures? That is a unique name. That's something I should have used a long time ago. But anyway, now Mike records some of the things he does in Las Marias. So I'm gonna link him below. Go check him out. Very nice guy. And yeah, I think he was building his coop last time. And he's about to get chickens and show you around his farm in the mountains of Las Marias. Beautiful, beautiful country, beautiful area. So go check him out. It is in English, by the way. All right, guys, so you have a good morning, afternoon, or night wherever you are. We'll see you mañana. Bye.